Welcome, everyone. My name's Scott Holdison. I chair the steering committee for UAWD, and I want to welcome you to our webinar, Strength in Numbers, Finding the Issues that Bring Your Coworkers Together and Building a Team to Win. I'm going to go back to screen sharing. Just wanted to pause it for a minute just to say hi. And without further ado, we're going to get busy with the program. So like I said, this training is called Strength in Numbers, Finding the Issues that Bring Your Coworkers Together and Building a Team to Win. Thank you for joining us today. Please ask questions by clicking the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and typing them into that function. This is the first in a series of trainings. The next training will be is tentatively scheduled for April 13th. That's called Building Worker Power, Solidarity, Unionism. Part 3 has not been scheduled yet, but it's going to be about shop floor tactics at work. Part 4 is legal rights on the shop floor for rank and file and stewards. And then part 5 is going to be about running for union office. We expect the cadence for these to be right around monthly. So I'm going to now turn it over to Nolan Tabb, and he's going to introduce our panelists today.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Nolan Tabb of UAW Local 281, John Deere, Davenport, Iowa, and a member of the UAWD Steering Committee, as well as chair of the UAWD Organizing Committee. And I'm very excited to see everybody here today. I'm also excited to announce that UAWD's Electric Vehicle Committee will be holding an additional educational training on Saturday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern, titled Building a Worker-Led EV Transition for People Not Profit. This presentation will analyze the history of the U.S. auto industry, evaluate the current state of the EV transition, and discuss how we can organize to protect jobs, our communities, and address climate change. You can register at the link that we'll be sharing in the chat below. With that, I'm excited to introduce our facilitators for today. You will hear today from Henrietta England, who is a rank and file member of Local 551 for Chicago. Active on her local education committee and chaplaincy, Henrietta is also an author and teacher of financial literacy. Next, you'll hear from Stephen Hinojosa, who's a rank and file member doing amazing work at Local 12 in Toledo Jeep, and has had real impacts on job security and standing unwavering for the fundamental union principles that an attack against one of us is an attack against all of us, regardless of temp status. Then we'll have Dewey Carpenter, who serves as a member of Local 281, John Deere in Davenport, Iowa. In his first term as elected shop floor steward, actively engaged with the Local 281 Organizing Committee, and founding member of the Deere rank and file team known as Draft that is stoking the militancy of our shop through member-to-member training and rank and file actions. Finally, we have Nevena Polovovich-Wingler, who's a member of Local 22, GM Factory Zero, and DHAM in Detroit, where she serves the membership also as a newly elected committee person, actively engaged in the Local 22 Organizing Committee, and also a founding member of Draft, the DHAM rank and file team, a group of Local 22 members pushing militancy and democracy. And with that, I'm excited to pass it over to Nevena to kick us off. Nevena?
Cool, thanks, Nolan. And hi, everyone. Very excited to be here and see my Local 22 folks here, too. So yeah, kicking it off with just asking, what is the North Star and mission for UAWD's series of trainings this spring? Building class struggle unionism is at the heart of that. And what I mean by that is where we believe that our union struggles sit within a bigger conflict between the billionaires, those who profit by exploiting workers and controlling our economic and political system, and the workers, us, who our labor actually creates the goods and services that keep our society functioning. Class struggle unionism sees rank and file workers and the working class as the agents of change who, when we act collectively, have the power to change our working and living conditions. It frames rank and file workers' everyday struggles on the shop floor, against our overloaded jobs, against the arbitrary terminations we see every day, and for work-life balance, as one part of this broader fight against the ruling class to end our own exploitation and against the profit-driven system that allows billionaires to exist. And there's a couple of forces that are so real and present in our unions that we want this training to challenge. One is business unionism. And that's where, union leadership sees the problem as that of individual workers versus bad employers, that there can be good employers where we'll win the most through our positive relationships with them. And it really doesn't challenge the existence of billionaires. And then another force is service unionism, where the union is treated as an insurance policy or a third party, where if a member has a problem, they just go to that union leadership and staff, the experts, to provide said service. So I think to try to distinguish what we're hoping to emphasize here in these trainings versus those forces I just mentioned is in Joe Burns's book called Class Struggle Unionism, which compares the Farm Equipment Workers Union, FE, to UAW, which was focusing on at the time on more collaborative relationships with management instead of supporting rank and file workers on the shop floor. So I'm just going to read a section from it because I think it does such a nice job highlighting this. Quote, unlike the UAW, the FE union fought the notion of limited productivity increases. Between 1945 and 1954, the union engaged in over 1,000 strikes at international harvester plants, filed thousands of grievances, and fought the company on every turn. Even though they had bargaining agreements, class war continued during the term of the agreement. A typical shop floor dispute might begin when a supervisor threatens a worker or denies a preferential pay rate. As FE shop floor leader Jim Mouser explained, when he would approach a supervisor over an issue of speeding up the work or another dispute, he would tell the supervisor he had the entire group behind him. Quote, well, I'll tell you right now, it's not just him, it's the whole department. When that bell sounds at 7:30 and they go on their break, they're going to have a meeting. If you haven't straightened it out, you won't have any pieces from anybody the rest of the night because they're going to go home. They've already told me that. And so if the supervisor did not relent, the workers shut down the factory or plant. So again, that's the overall North Star for our training series. And the next session will really go in depth about how practicing class struggle and solidarity unionism can help us build the power in our workplaces we need to fight what we're dealing with. And today's training is about the nuts and bolts of how to start that. And so we'll hear from Henrietta about fundamentals, like how to identify an issue and build out a team, from Dewey about group grievances, Stephen about petitions, and then I will talk about committee people's possibilities.
Okay, now we'll be turning it over to Henrietta to lead us through the next few slides.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Scott.
Henrietta.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Local 551, shout out to us, our local. Thank you so much again. Choosing and organizing issue. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Don't forget that we do have the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. So if you do have any questions or concerns, or even if you would like to make a comment, please do so in that question and answer. So we're going to start by getting an understanding of what's important to you and your coworkers, because many times we have the same issues, but we don't know because we're not communicating. So it's important that we begin to communicate one with the other on these important issues that we're having in our very own plants, in our very own workplaces. And so sometimes there are so many issues that you don't know where to begin. So in the long term, we want to create an atmosphere where members feel free to exercise our power and exercise our voices without being retaliated against. And there is, again, strength in numbers. So choosing an issue that's widely and deeply felt. And so basically what we're saying is those things that we have in common, those common problems, we want to make sure that we are identifying those problems one with the other and communicating with our coworkers. How many members are really truly affected by these same issues? And if you have more than one shift, you want to make sure that you're communicating with the other operators on the different shifts that pertains to your job as well, and them communicating broadly because we all may be having the same issues. Those things that are deeply felt. How much do affected members care about the problem? That's important too, because some people care, and then there's other, well, I'm just going to do my job and I'm going to go home. But we know that it affects all of us. So we want to make sure that we're getting those other members involved to take action. That is so very important. So find an issue that makes some workers like kind of hot under their collar, things that kind of burn you up. Those are the things you want to get people involved in with you, because if you're listening around, the lunch table, you'll hear some of those things, and that'll be a perfect time to get them motivated to jump on board. So choosing an issue that's widely and deeply felt. You see here that we have shared some examples with you. And so you can take a look at those examples and know that these are just examples. Of course, there are other issues that will be important to us, but these are just some of the things that we came up with for you to take a look at. And if you have any questions, again, please put them in the question and answer section. Choose an issue that motivates. So we want to make sure that we are motivating one another to get involved as well. These issues that concern us, they are so very important because they are, they take wear and tear on our bodies, even on our mental capacities. So we want to make sure that we know what is important to each and every one of us, because we want to take it and we want to win. And so what do you want? What is the realistic situation that those affected will find acceptable? Because some people, they may not agree with you on what your acceptability is. So kind of just, have a conversation about that. Doesn't have to be a long conversation, but at least start a conversation. And who can say yes? So basically, those that are in authority that can grant our solution, right? Those supervisors, area managers, plant managers, those, etc. Because it's important that we also want to know, what's it going to take them to move? What is the price of them saying yes to us? How much money it may cost them in dollars and cents? But, again, we want to stick with our issues, and we want to come together collectively to hear, for our voices to be heard. How high is the price of saying no? So how many members are willing to take action to get it resolved, right? And how far will we go? That is so very important. So now we want to get to section 2, which is building our team together and building up our strength in numbers. So organizers are not lone rangers. We are not lone rangers. It takes all of us to collectively come together, work together. And as our great civil rights activist, Ella Baker said, we need more movement-centered leaders, not leader-centered movements. And so I want you to just focus in on that. Before I repeated it twice, but I'm not going to go there today, but just focus in on that and see how that affects us. And so a good organizer, they tap into the righteous anger of others and motivates them to take collective actions. We don't want to be the hero. We don't want to be the lone star, right? We want to grab all of those that are members. Our memberships are large and some are small, but we want to grab those members together, right? And we want to stand together so that they can take us serious the first time that we come. Protect your team by choosing leaders wisely. And so being a leader often means taking risk. And we are very aware of that. In this union, there is always a risk involved. And so when you and your coworkers decide to take on the boss, there will likely be a pushback. So meaning protect yourselves, get to work on time, have on the proper PPEs, right? Because they will nitpick. right? And send you home. My daughter was sent home the other day because of some shoes, right? But everybody else had on the same type of shoes. So we got to make sure that when we're getting ready to come up against that boss or a plant manager or anything to that nature, we want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and make sure we're doing everything that we need to do. And so we want to aim for this bullseye. Basically, we want to get everyone to the core, but we know that when we're dealing with people, they're not always at the core. Sometimes they can be hostile, right? But our goal is to get them and members to come in as activists into our core, that our goal should be to move them closer to the center of this bullseye. So the core members are people that are thinking about organizing and how to get others organized. Who can we count on? Who are those people that have given us their word that can say, hey, look, I'm going to help you pass out flyers. I'm going to help you get the word out. And activists, these are members that are willing to help carry out the action. And so many hands make for a lighter load. And we know that together we stand, together we are stronger. Also, we have those that will support us, right? But they don't necessarily want to be as active. And so we want to make sure that we choose these supporters and encourage them as well. They may very well sign a petition, have a petition signed for us, read a flyer, or even wear a sticker that's supporting what we're doing. All right, the disengaged. Now, these coworkers may have been more engaged in the past and been discouraged, right? So these people, we really want to listen more than we speak with these type of people, because these people have concerns and they have issues. And so if we're listening to their concerns and issues and paraphrasing back to them what they're saying so that they know that we're actively listening, then maybe we can win them over again, and get them involved. So those hostile workers, these are some people that have become very hostile toward our efforts, and they may have political differences than we do, and we see a lot of that in our UAW family today. Or they may be more aligned with the boss than their coworkers, and we've seen that on the shop floor, right? Where UAW brothers and sisters and sibling members are going to the bosses instead of coming to us individually. But we want to make sure that we kind of not necessarily leave them out, but listen to their stories as well, but neutralize the situation and then go back to them at another time to engage them again. And so how do you pull your coworkers closer to the center? We give them manageable tasks to help them build up their confidence, because some people are not used to speaking in front of crowds and so on and so forth. We role play with them as well to gain momentum to win the issues that our team is taking on. So we want to take a minute to think about your coworkers. Who would be in your core group? And so you can write these things down. Also, who would be your activists? Okay, section 3, we want to mapping out your shop. How far does your team reach? And so this is very important to know about how far our team is. And so you're going to be looking today at local 551 in our mapping system, but you can get this information for your mapping system. You'll be able to get that from your team leaders, your tradesmen, of the particular maps of your particular area. So make sure that you're exhausting all of your avenues, right? And so we'll want to make sure that we're tracking and we're also helping one another with shifts in departments and how they work. So if you have more than one shift, you want to make sure that you have 3 different mappings, right, for each shift. Go ahead, Scott. Okay, where is your team and map it out? So this is kind of going inside with what I was just saying about making sure that you keep track of who's taking on what, making sure you're keeping track of who is responsible for what. Make sure that you're listening to their feedback that they're giving you, because we want them to work smarter and not harder. And then we don't want to overwork a particular one that is really good at it, but we want to make sure that we're bringing them all in collaboratively to be able to work on these issues together. Okay, and so where is your team? Map it out. A visualization of your workplace itself can help, right? And so that's what I was talking about. Get in contact with your team members, your team leaders, your tradesmen that work there, because you know they have a map, right, of these particular points. Also, making sure that you're including the sequence center. You know, North Point, we have that at Chicago Assembly. So we don't want to leave out anyone when we are working on these issues, because when we have people that's in a different building than where the main plant is, a lot of times they feel left out, that we're not including them. And so we want to make sure that we're including everyone. So it's important to get this map. And it's important to make sure that we're communicating with our team leaders and our tradesmen to make sure we can get this information. All right, and so you can use this map again for each shift and place your core and activists on the map. So making sure that you're working these things out together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Henrietta. We're going to now go into the next part of the training, which we're going to be turning it over to Dewey to talk about identifying organizing opportunities and targeting pressure points. Take it away, Dewey.
Thanks, Scott. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. My name is Dewey Carpenter. I'm a part of the local 281 John Deere Davenport Works, based out of Davenport, Iowa. I'm going to go through a couple things that we've done on our shop floor as of recent, just to kind of give a brief overview of some things that we're dealing with. Some of the things I'm going to tell you might sound a little bit different from the variations like Nevena and her job as a steward, because I've noticed that mine's a little bit different. So I will say right now that there are differences in the word steward in different factories. So I work the final assembly over there, John Deere Davenport Works, in the PCL department, which is our production class loaders. We've also been assembling a team of rank and file members, and we work to identify organizing opportunities. With that, we find ways to get members engaged in a fight against management and our bosses. As a shop floor steward, we are the first line of defense while also running a job in a line, which again is different from like Nevena, from what I understood. It also gives us a unique vantage point that other elected leaders, such as our committee people, fail to realize from their office desk. Challenging production standards has proven to be a widely and deeply felt issue on our shop floor. Armed with that, we have successfully pushed for an incentive production training factory-wide with our initial effort. Our core team then started together in our department to challenge production standards one at a time, and we had a big one, which I'm going to go through here recently. We had a new model change and line rate reductions, which resulted in a resplit of manpower and work content, and we were immediately faced with overloaded jobs and bottlenecking on the line. Management's fix was to target workers in certain areas and attempt to discipline them for impeding production. One of our 281 core team members and fellow UAWD members, Patrick McCummins, was one of those workers. Pat requested that myself join this conversation, being the union steward, because that's our first course of action when getting our union involved. Together, we demanded a union time study while also setting the stage to have our union safety reps line side during that time study as well. On that day, we were ready to point out the OSHA violations that we knew would require additional safeguards, such as steps and platforms to be fabricated and implemented. Factory safety reps concluded that these major safety violations must be addressed immediately or the line would shut down. And obviously, we all know that's not going to happen if it comes to management's discretion. An additional time study would then need to be conducted once all new safety features and adequate tooling were in place. The results of that effort will prove a net gain of over an hour a day shaved off of that tack time with corrected standards. And that additional work had to be rebalanced through the line, potentially saving a coworker from being reduced out of the department and a ripple effect that will possibly save a member from being laid off down the road. All from invoking our contractual right to challenge the standards of one job in one department. Needless to say, we had members coming to us almost immediately asking for help on achieving those same results on their job. Basically, it led to a onslaught of individuals that probably wouldn't regularly ask for tack time or rundown sheets of their OMSs to start really digging into some certain things such as times. Empowering each other to stand up and push back against overloaded jobs and the constant pressure to do more under lean manufacturing has proven to be an organizing strategy on our shop floor. It's just one of the examples of issues that Henrietta provided earlier that has been galvanizing for us at Local 281 and is building a broader fight that puts production standard front and center. And with that, I will now turn it over to Stephen.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Hinojosa. I'm from Local 12. That's Toledo Jeep. And get over to the right screen here. And Local 12, I was a backup steward. I am been there for about 11 years, and I am involved in a organizing group that we have. And with that, I'm going to actually bring up a couple things. First, I want to say thank you to everybody who helped put this together, because this is a fantastic training. I think they put so much time and effort into it, and I hope you guys get as much out of it as I did. With that being said, we're going to talk about one of the things that my group was able to successfully do, and that was a March on the Boss. As many of you know, we had a strike this last year, and during the Big Three stand-up strike, one of the big issues that we were fighting against was abuse of tiers, and more specifically, the supplemental workers. Stellantis, where I work, was the biggest abuser of supplemental workers, and my plant, and more specifically, was probably the largest supplemental workforce. Unfortunately, we had so many people there. About a third of our workforce was supplemental workers, and those workers, the turnover rate started taking more time to go to full time, and we started noticing that some of them were there 5-6 years before getting rolled over. During the strike, we started realizing we were able to identify a lot of these people, and that they were going to get some significant raises, and there was language to finally get them rolled to full time. Unfortunately, the January after our contract was written, we found ourselves in a spot where a lot of our coworkers, our SE members, were getting terminated, and a very large number of them. So we decided as a group that this was not okay. I mean, these supplemental workers helped basically make us record profits year after year. Their work was completely necessary for us to be able to have profit sharing, to be able to keep our doors open, and they became like family to many of us. We often spend more time with our coworkers than we do it with our own families, as many of you know. So our core group, at this time, it was only about a member of 10. We kind of got together during the strike, maybe a little bit before, and started organizing with issues that we felt were pretty significant issues in our plant. And that way we could identify them and start making action instead of having to rely so much on elected leadership that often has their hands full. So when we came up with the idea, we said we were going to have a petition. We came up with some language, and I hope it pops up here. If you guys can pop up that petition for me real quick. All right, here we go. So the petition here is exactly what we walked around with in our plant. And this took we only did about a week worth. Me personally, I was a team leader at the time, and I was able to take my breaks and lunches and walk around the plant. And even though not everybody was in their break areas, I didn't approach a single member who was apprehensive in the least bit. People wanted their coworkers back. They saw it as absolutely ridiculous that they contributed so much to our livelihoods, and yet none of them were able to have profit sharing, let alone keep their jobs. So as I walked around, we found that as much as we have the little scanner QR code, unfortunately, most people were more okay with signing their name and doing it physical. When they did a physical copy, we collected a little over, I want to say 200 petitions in a week, or names, signatures. And we decided that that wasn't enough. We wanted to make sure we were going to get this as much people's eyes on it as we possibly could. So we decided we're going to have a March on the Boss. With collecting these signatures, we collected their phone number and email as well. And we reached out and to each one of the people who filled out the survey or the petition itself, and decided we were going to ask them to participate in the March on the Boss and attach us to a grievance that was already filed on our behalf. As we wandered through the plant and we collected more and more signatures, we sent out mass text messages to every single person, and we soon had a pretty sizable group of about 30, 40 people. Mind you, this started with our specific group that was probably no more than 10 at the time. With that, we were able to pick a date that we thought was going to be the most beneficial, picked a time that we knew that all managers were going to be in a central location, so we could get as many workers to see what we were doing. We met at one location, made sure we were all wearing our red shirts for solidarity, passed out individual copies of these to each member who showed up, so that way we could have a list of every person's name that was standing with our SEs. Upon that, we spoke with some of our elected leaders to make sure that they had our back, and there was no way that the company could make claims of intimidation or anything like aggressive. So we were told, hey, if you're going to do it, don't surround them, do it single file. So we met at one break area, and we all single file marched down the aisle. The big boss was standing there trying to record us, not realizing that we were calling him out specifically. When we reached at the central location, I was able to call him over and deliver a nice little impassioned speech. I have never seen a boss shake more in his boots, and let me tell you, that is a great feeling when you have so many people with so many eyes on you, and knowing that this boss has no power whatsoever. They were looking at the floor the whole time, and it was pretty great. So after I said my speech, I moved to the side, handed him a form with names on it, and we said we demand that each SE be brought back immediately with full back pay. The next member walked up, said we stand with the SEs, handed him a form, and so on and so forth down the line until every single one of them handed a copy. After that, we were able to get back to our jobs so that there was no disruption with production, because we don't want to get ourselves in trouble as well. We want to make sure that everything is taken care of and well thought out, well planned, so that there are no issues that could arise where anybody could get themselves terminated or disciplined or anything of that nature. All I can say is it was a great experience. And afterwards, we made a second copy that we turned in with our grievance form. We even had a few committeemen who came in that had the day off. They wanted to come in just for that specific occasion. So it was a great experience all around. People were buzzing and talking about it. I mean, we had stock drivers stop halfway through the aisle, just gazing at us, trying to see what was going on. But unfortunately, this was done on second shift, which, yes, it was powerful, but the boss that controls a lot of the hiring, firing, that kind of thing is on day shift. So we wanted to do it again on day shift at some point, but we didn't have the numbers of our activists on that. So that's where we started realizing we had some gaps in our coverage of the plant. Doing that, we were able to kind of map out a little bit better and figure out exactly where our gaps were. And we, since then, our group of around 10, we've expanded. Now we're probably closer to 30. It's still a smaller group, but we are all fairly influential people. We're always looking for new members, and we're always going back to what Henrietta said about searching for that core, because we think it's very important to not only map out your workplace, and I know that can be a little bit, you know, a little worrisome for a lot of people that aren't experienced with that. I can't talk specifically, but in identifying those things, we were able to kind of slowly start moving more people to the core and moving people up. So that's basically my story there. It was fantastic. I look forward to getting to do it again. And with that, I am done with my presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. With this, we're going to turn it over to Nevna to tell us about their organizing at Local 22.
Cool, thanks, Scott. And I also, Stephen, your petition at Local 12 like directly inspired and influenced what we did at Local 22. So it's so cool to follow up with you on this, because I think it models how in UAWD we share our skills with each other and motivate each other. So I know I'm like alone on the screen right now, but what I talk about is really about what draft did at Local 22. Draft stands for DHAM Rank and File Team, and it's the crew of us at Local 22 who's really just wanted to make our union a more fighting union. So our petition was in response to launch mode. And so I think that slide might be about committee person stuff, which I'll talk about next. There you go. Yeah, so this is the petition we did. So launch mode in the UAW-GM National Agreement is basically a big carve out. It says that whenever GM is launching a new model, they're in their right to work us however many hours and however many days they want in order for us to reach the production goal. So we were working 12-hour shifts, 6 to 7 days a week on second shift. Our shift was 5 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. And people were exhausted by this. People told me how, I like the money, but I like my body more. Or I love the money, but what's the point if I can't spend it with my family at home? And we weren't totally sure, those of us in draft, on whether to respond to or not until one day we learned that a member was killed driving home from work. We got mixed information on what exactly caused it, but the news really fueled the sentiment on the shop floor that people were exhausted, and it really brought out multiple stories of people falling asleep at the wheel while driving home or almost falling asleep. So we decided to form a petition directly in response to it. And so this petition called on management to create a third shift so that the mandatory overtime could go across 3 shifts instead of 2, and on our union leadership to fight for this by opening up our local living agreement. We ended up getting 650 signatures, and I know multiple folks from Local 22 are in this meeting right now, and so I think some of them probably remember this. So how we did this was that, we had a core of 7 members in draft. We had about 5 activists who were willing to hand the flyers out at the gates, and we had about 70 supporters who had signed up from 3 previous info flyers. We made this through Canva, which is a free graphic design software that anyone can use. It also allowed us to share drafts with each other to give input. We used a Google form to collect info, also free and easy to use. For flyers, we bought 2,000 double-sided half sheets, which for me at the time sounded like a lot, but we went through them quickly, and we spent $125 everyone chipped in for our local union printer. We flyered in groups at the gates before and after shifts a couple times, and we used the flyer really as a way to have a conversation with someone, ask them what they thought about it. We partnered up, so people with less flyering experience did it with people with more. And also, like, if we met someone really enthusiastic about it, we asked if they wanted to help flyer the next day, and some folks did that. We pass them out in the cafeteria and the break rooms. And I will say, following up on what Stephen said, like I reread the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act, multiple times to just understand what were our protected rights to do this. And you can, hand stuff out in non-work areas during your non-work time. We post on Facebook, of course. And also we followed up with texts from the people who signed this, inviting them to the lunchroom for meetings. And some of those meetings were pretty exciting. So what were the outcomes of this? We had 650 signatures of people we could reach out to. We also asked people if they were interested in learning more about UAWD, and about half of the 650 people who filled out the Google form said yes. In terms of concrete numbers, we gained about 5 new core members to draft. Actually, Maisha's who's in this meeting right now. I remember meeting Maisha in a battery department break room and handing this flyer out, and now she is part of draft and also a co-chair of the locals organizing committee. So building on that, right, it also got us 20 new people to help us flyer, and again about 600 new supporters. Draft really became a foundation of running people, also for committee people positions and having more people on the organizing committee. And an interesting outcome too is that management, about 2 weeks after we handed this petition out, management brought forward an MOU trying to force a 6-day schedule that we would be in long term. So even if we weren't in launch mode, we'd still be doing a 6-day schedule, something that management has done in other GM plants. And I think that this petition was already getting that conversation going, and there's a really organic dissent throughout the plant against this MOU, and ultimately, made management pull back this MOU. I even remember a car coming down the line where someone had put a sticky note on it that said vote no. It was awesome to see that. I think big takeaways is that, we were a small group. It was a smaller core group, but I think it created the foundation for draft. And while we didn't succeed at the kind of concrete goal, which was to bring a resolution to the union meeting, the momentum was huge in terms of getting us to where we are right now.
Okay, thank you, Nevena. Now we're going to turn to Henrietta to talk a little bit about some actions at Chicago Assembly Plant for Ford.
All right, thank you so much, Scott. One of the collective actions that we took was we were having some big issues about our parking lot. People were breaking into our cars, stealing, vandalizing, and so on and so forth. So we came together. We used Facebook. We also used others to help us get the petitions signed. And we want to we had like 12 people that was helping us to get the petitions signed. And then we want to thank also our executive board for taking this issue in our bargaining unit, taking this issue to Ford as well. And so we have a large presence on Facebook, as I stated, with UAW 551 Strong, and that group is ran by Don May. And we actually came together with 1,000 signatures in order to get them to hear us. And so because we came together and we were collectively acting together to get this done, so it's very important that we bring people together, right? There's no I in team. So we got everyone together, and we now have security gates, okay, because of our actions. Because before you could just drive in on our plant parking lot area, and yes, we collected those 1,000. Yes, we did signatures, and now the gates are up doing the changes of shifts because we're so large at Local 551. But once we know that everyone's in, then those gates go down, and then now we're secured. and now we're protected. So I thank again the bargaining team for taking that forward and them hearing us and they responding to our collectiveness of coming together and getting these issues concerned and taken care of. Thank you.
Thanks, Henrietta. Next, we're going to go to moving past roadblocks, and Stephen's going to give us a little update on how they managed to move past the roadblocks there, and then we'll go back to Nevada.
All right, thank you, Scott. Yeah, so we definitely realized, we came into it with what was our goal, what were we trying to accomplish, and then once you have that set up, you have your ideas, you have your plan, you want to identify as many issues that could arise as possible. You want to make sure that your people are going to be safe, that they feel confident, that they have protection in numbers. So we wanted to ensure that everybody felt comfortable, that they felt heard, and that their concerns were going to be dealt with on the front end. So we identified, at least with our specific thing on the March on the Boss, we identified, some of the bosses. We also know we're very impassioned people. If you're here attending this, we know that you are somebody who cares deeply and you want to make your plant better. And so with that, we understood that a lot of our members get very passionate. And sometimes when we're passionate, we say things that could get us in trouble, or we do things that maybe aren't planned as well. So with that, we thought of what issues could we run into? And we kind of identified a lot of our members do get mouthy. They do tend to start yelling. And so we wanted to, when we spoke to them through text messages and the people that we got together, and right before we did the march itself, we spoke and said, hey, we want to keep this very quick. We want to make sure that what you say is just in support of the SEs and not a personal grievance. We want to ensure that we're doing the single file, so we're not creating a possible aggression. Our goal is to protect you as much as possible. We have our stewards and our committeemen all there to witness this. So we ask that you keep this very short, sweet, to the point, and just let them know it's going to be intimidating enough with the sheer numbers of people that we have. So again, a big thing that we want to make sure we're doing is identifying the possible issues that could arise, and then having plans around them to make as many people feel comfortable as possible. And that was central to what we were able to do. If we weren't able to do that, we wouldn't feel confident enough to march on the boss, because our goal is not to get more people fired. It's to bring people back to work.
Okay, now Nevada is going to tell us about their roadblocks that they had to overcome, and also talk a little bit about her role as committee person.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I think, going in addition to Stephen, I think in addition to roadblocks from management, there also unfortunately can be roadblocks from our union leadership, right? Especially if they're used to not having a super active rank and file membership. So I think, if you're sometimes when you're fighting against the bosses, then like our petition, for example, you can be dispositioned as the other, as if somehow we're not in the union, even when we disagree with union leadership. You can be accused of sowing division, even though I think a lot of people agree at the end of the day, a democratic union where we come with our different opinions and decide how to move forward is a healthy union. So a couple of things, we had our locals president released a letter shortly after we put the petition out, and in so many ways basically said to people that if they supported a document that was not put out by official union leadership, that they would lose their jobs or they would get in trouble. And those who put the petition out wouldn't bring their jobs back. And while the president didn't directly call us out, it had the intended effect. Like, people were scared on the floor afterwards. And so I think some things that we use to help ground ourselves as draft was, number one, whose voice are you prioritizing, right? Whose voice is in your head? Is it the one super angry union leadership voice? Or is it the voice of the, tens or even hundreds of members you've been talking with about their struggles? I think also remembering what is the biggest risk to do. That intimidation can sometimes make people not want to, move forward with their actions. The biggest risk is to do nothing, because we know that when we do nothing, that keeps people getting exploited by the bosses. And also to talk with your team, try to anticipate what could happen with union leadership. So yeah, I think those things all helped us keep our feet on the ground, even when we got that annoying intimidation by union leadership. And then, yeah, I'll also say some stuff about being a committee person. I am, just like Dewey said, being a union rep and GM can be different from other places. So as a union rep, I represent, I'm on second shift in District 12, which is about 200 members I represent from materials, high-low drivers, tuggers, kidders, as well as people in the battery department. And shout out to all the battery department workers on this call right now. And I'll just say, like, I'm very green to this. I've been at the plant for a year. I became a committee person in September. No one else ran for it. So everything I'm about to say really comes from years of labor movement lessons that we're just trying to practice as draft and as committee people at Local 22. So, overarching what I say to myself every day is that the committee person is only as strong as the membership is active and organized. And to just ask, how can I, as a union rep, organize the membership? I think number one is to build relationships and treat members as leaders. It can be really scary to fight membership management, just like, Stephen was talking about, and Dewey. And I think building trust and getting to know each other is huge, right? If you're a union rep, you have the privilege of accessing membership. So through committee calls, even in disciplinary meetings, meet the member, talk to them, ask what they're experiencing, and get their phone numbers, right? We have to always challenge ourselves as if you're in a union leadership position as the expert. Everyone here experiences what they're dealing with on the shop floor and are the experts on that. So I really like to ask members, well, what do you think will change this? What is the way to fight it? I think going beyond service unionism is also trying to think about people and their grouped issues, right? So if one person is experiencing something, there's usually at least multiple other members experiencing it. But focusing on one person at a time does not get at the root of the problem. So whenever I hear like 2 to 3 members talking about the same issue, I ask them, can we all meet up during a lunch break? And you all can meet each other and we can talk together about how to fight stuff. So that also means, going to people's team meetings. If you have groups of workers who always have to meet on a weekly basis, for example, go there, be a face, and ask what people are dealing with. Also following members' leads, especially if you think it's unreasonable. I think that union leadership often can treat members as being too aggressive or wanting to fight the boss too much. And I think that I know sometimes I've had that knee-jerk reaction and I've had to name it and then remember the member is the one who knows what risk they want to take and how they want to fight the issue. And especially if they're acting collectively, sometimes the best thing a committee person can do is stay out of the way and support, translate the contract, and strategize. One example of that is I had a group of members, management was trying to change our team meeting time. They can't do that unless committee person gives permission. The members were so pissed off about it that they ended up occupying the break room, kept it at the exact same time that it's been at before. And I remember being kind of worried that they were all going to get put on notice. And then I was like, there's 20 people, 25 people occupying that break room. I'm here to support them. I am here to stand in front of management if they try putting those members on notice. So I think that was just such an exciting moment. Lastly, resolutions and campaigns. Sometimes as a committee person, you have to admit when a problem is too big for just a committee person to handle or just a district to handle. And so when I have members experiencing, again, these too big of issues that are too systemic, I want to be transparent with them. I can't do this alone as a committee person. This is something that you all have to come together around, bring a resolution to a union membership meeting or do a campaign. And they have to lead that, but I can offer the tools like the ones Henrietta went over here and help them carry out that bigger fight. This is the last thing I'll say is that the skilled trades guys at Local 22 just did exactly this. We have draft and UAWD member Ricky Bobby with other skilled trades guys. They brought together 29 members in a team meeting and then asked the committee person, Russell Dong, who's also a draft and UAWD member, to join. And then from that team meeting, the 29 guys marched on the boss, where they each stood in line and put in a separate committee call. And ultimately, this forced the chairman to have a meeting with them, and then a motion at a membership meeting got passed, and Russell supported them the whole way. So I think just another very cool example of membership leading it and the committee person supporting it.
Thank you, Nevena. We had, and I'm going to encourage others to drop more questions in the chat, but there's one question here. These were posted in the facility and management didn't pull them down. I'm not sure which we're talking about, maybe Nevena's petition, because I believe the others were just taken around by individuals. So can you want to speak to that, Nevena?
Yeah, there were actually flyers put up by people who weren't in our core group. Like, I think that was an exciting moment where people were actually taking flyers and placing them where they could. There were areas where management was taking them down or throwing them out in the cafeteria or the break rooms. But I think it shows that sometimes there's pockets in the plant where the members can just put stuff up and nothing is done with it. So that was kind of an organic outcome of us handing the flyers out.
Okay, are there any other questions? You can drop your questions in the chat. And we'll wait just a minute to give you a chance to ask your questions. And there's a Q&A, there's the chat. And I don't see any other questions. So I guess we'll go into the wrap-up mode. Nolan, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And for folks that feel free to continue to drop your questions in the Q&A as we start to wrap this up. Our panelists will be happy to field them. I'd like to thank our training facilitators for sharing their stories and strategies for building real-world rank-and-file power on the shop floor. You all stepped up and did an amazing job sharing your successes and building that power on your shop floor, whether it's through petitions, grievances, or challenging production standards. I also want to thank all of you who are attending today and spending part of your Sunday with us. We hope that you are leaving here today inspired for training materials to take with you, such as mapping out your workplace, the bullseye exercise. Visit UAWD.org where you'll find these additional resources, as well as UAWD.org/toolkit for resources that we put together leading up to this. You can also join UAWD, our grassroots democratic member-led organization of UAW members in good standing who are organizing together to reform our union, build a stronger, more militant rank-and-file membership at UAWD.org/join. And once again, the UAWD Electric Vehicle Committee will be holding an additional educational training on Saturday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, titled Building a Worker-Led EV Transition for People, Not Profit. And you can register for UAWD's Worker-Led EV Transitional Educational Training at UAWD.org/Worker-Led EV Transition, which I will also drop in the chat. Looks like we have a couple other questions, Scott, if you want to go ahead and acknowledge those.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding the question. Oh, there we go. How can you become a community member? Antonio is asking.
I believe that was committee member. How can you become a committee member?
Oh, a committee member. Well, most local unions have standing committees that you can join. The committee that Nevena is, she's a committee person. That's an elected position. So, you either do it by approaching your leadership and telling them about your interest in certain standing committees or running for election. And, we're going to get to running for election in a later part of this, this series. So that's going to be the wrap up of this series. And then Robert asked, at proposed Toledo Jeep plant, we are having issue of job elimination still. I have approached my committee person on creating a jobs position jobs position that will be trained on how Stellantis comes up with these formulas of job combinations or elimination. What else can we do? So Stephen, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So a lot of the stuff with specifically to Jeep, Stellantis uses a system called MODAPS, and that's what their engineers use to determine how much of the job cycle is able to take more, how much of the time is taken up. And as I'm sure you know, our cycle time is about 49 seconds. And unfortunately, with that 49 seconds, we went from WCM to SPW, which so WCM is a world-class manufacturing, a system that they that FCA purchased and was a part of, and they wanted the job station to be about 85% proficient. Well, now it's gone up significantly to about 95% with SPW, meaning there's very little time in addition that they are willing to let you have downtime on the job for whatever problems that you have, whether it's repair or you have a cross thread, bolt, whatever. And so they use this system called MODAPS, which the engineers use. Unfortunately, MODAPS is kind of kept a little bit of a secret. And one of the things that we were trying to do with our local contract was to get stewards and committeemen trained on MODAPS so we could audit these a little bit more efficiently. Now, committeemen can get a hold of that. Anytime that your jobs are, we had a class on this actually. Our group did. We had one at the library, and we were trying to promote it. But again, it's very hard with rank and file workers to get that information out there without it being shared by the committee. And we did have a couple people come, and we talked about exactly what MODAPS is, how to translate it, and then how to fight back at those additional job issues that, jobs being overcycled and things like that. So we had a class about that. I'm hoping we might run it again. So be on the lookout. Rob, I will get with you and see if I could get you some more information on that. And yeah, I appreciate it. I hope I could help answer some of those questions for you.
Okay, and Rob had a follow-up. He's in stock. How can you get them to use MODAPS for these jobs?
I'm in stock as well now. I was in assembly, so that is a good question. So our jobs in stock are a little bit different. We don't have man assignments as we do in assembly. We did have a couple people teaching the class that were able to fight back against job eliminations and things of that nature. I will actually get you in touch with them and see if we can answer some of those questions a little bit more thoroughly on a personal level there.
Thanks, Stephen. The next question, I'm going to toss it over to Henrietta, but it seems like it's from 551 member. Do you have to join the committee through Chris Penna?
Okay, to answer that question, normally in December, so we would have done it in December to sign up for the different committees. But because this is an election year for us, the sign up for the committees will not come out until July of this year after the election. And the president, which is Chris Penna, decides basically who's going to be on those committees. So yes, you sign up, and then you sign up for which committees that you would like to serve on, and then he will make that impromptu decision and advise us at the local meeting on which one we've been choosing for.
Yes, and we will be having a election in June at Local 551, and so if you need to see a change in leadership, that's your opportunity. Another question from Jennifer: is there a list of resources like using Canva that you mentioned and the book mentioned at the beginning, which I ordered straight away? But is there a list of resources for us to utilize while organizing? We have many resources on the UAWD website, but not one about using Canva. So, Nevena, do you have some tips?
Sure, I'll post in the, I love Canva because I just posted the link to Canva in the chat. There's templates in there you can pull from. It's so easy to use. You know, if you don't identify like as a graphic designer or whatever, it has flyer templates, Instagram post templates. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to check that out.
Okay, and one more question. Judy asked, since present actions have to be approved by the membership, how about doing that at the membership meeting? I'm not sure what, not sure exactly what you're meaning there, Judy, but if you're talking about being put on a committee, usually it's addressed in the bylaws of your local, how committees, some committees are elected, some local unions elect their standing committees. But that one was specific to our local, and I happen to know that our bylaws say that the president appoints. Hope that answered your question. Okay, I don't see any other questions.
Hey,
So
Scott.
yeah.
Hey, I did notice a question that was posted in the general chat from Roderick. He was wanting to know what a time study was. I'll kind of push this off on how we do it at our local 281, where we're an ag implement as opposed to big three. I don't know if you guys do it or not the same way. There's actually two different variations of the time study done at our facility. One is just a general time study where your engineers, engineering supervisors, whatever the case may be, physically walk around with you as you do your job with a stopwatch and basically time every movement or every progressive point of your job as you go through it. And when they do that, they go back, they take their time, what they've written down in notes, and they walk back and they give you a generalization of what that split time should be. Like right now, we are on a 3-day split process. Most of those jobs take anywhere from 2.5 hours. Some vary. If you have a disagreement at our facility with time study and the time study, you don't agree with that time study, you can do what we call a joint union time study, where it's not only the engineers for said department, but it's also our union time study rep comes out and does the same exact sequence of events. And after they get done timing this, taking notes, whatever, the union time rep and the engineer basically compare notes, and they come to a conclusion as to what that time study event basically the overall time should be for that entire split as it stands. And Nolan, don't quote me on this. Nolan might be able to help me on this. If there's any discretion, once that joint union time study is done, then it becomes a fight with the union and the company as to where they go and how they justify that time going forward. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure I got that because I saw that in the chat, and I hope that clarifies some stuff. Like I said, I don't know if that's the same thing that's done with the auto industry as it is with our construction forest industry, but that's where we come from when we do it.
No, I'm glad you interrupted me, Dewey. Thank you for noticing that question in the chat. I was looking at the Q&A and missed it. And I appreciate you answering it, brother. We have a few more questions in the chat. Were you still looking for a team member in the Midwest? No, we just hired a staff organizer, and so no, we're good now. And then there was a question about the president. Let's see. We've had issues with chairs on committees not doing their job. Can president remove them? Well, if we're talking about standing committees, again, it goes back to your bylaws. Was the president the one that put them in place in the first place? If so, then yes. If it was a vote of the membership, then the answer is no. There has to be some kind of removal process in your bylaws. So I would refer you to your bylaws about that. And
Good. I'd just like to add that if there's anyone, who has some local specific questions that has been looking for some additional answers, please feel free to email them to uawdemocracy@gmail.com. Reach out to any of our staff organizers or the leadership of UAWD, and you can find our contact information on uawd.org. And we can definitely take it offline from this training and give you all the resources and additional supports that we have available to us.
yeah, thanks, Nolan. And then we'll go to one last question about Local 22. That's what do I need to do to sign up to run for elected position? And when is the deadline for it at Local 22? You had to, at FCA, you had to send a certified letter to the local. That was from Jeff. Nevna, you want to answer that?
I'm hoping my other Local 22 people can help me with this, but we will be having elections sometime in May. The local has not announced. I think it's our treasury. I can't remember what his title is, but at our last membership meeting, he said that they have not identified the dates yet during which we will have elections. But to run for a committee person position, there are not that many requirements besides being traditional. So yeah, if we can connect, we can share more about what you have to do, but it will be in May and it'll be for all kinds of positions in the local. So let's connect with each other.
Okay, with that, I think that answers all the questions. There are a couple of comments, but yeah, that answers all the questions. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody and really appreciate you joining us today and have a great rest of your weekend.
Solidarity, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Strength in numbers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all. So happy to be here.